right, you guys, thanks for coming back for our discussion of Dawn. I am Jaby KOAY. This is SYNTELL KOAY.
Yeah, what's cracking, baby?
If you want to watch our watch-along reactions, we have it here on YouTube where it's cut down into 3 parts, but you can also watch it on our Patreon page, patreon.com/Jaby KOAY. The whole movie with us, uncut, uninterrupted, but you will need your own copy of the film, so you can open up the movie in an adjacent window to our reaction. We watched it on Netflix. Anyway, we have a lot of thoughts to share with you guys about Dawn, so here we go.
Yeah, how you feel, man? I see that look on your face. You gotta explain to me what the look is. What's the look?
It was fun. It's just that there's a lot of things that are sort of like, you just have to accept a lot in order to, as someone who didn't watch this when it came out, and second,
yeah,
we're not the target audience. We're American, and so there's like that extra layer of, it's removed from us on 2 fronts, is what I'm trying to say. There is fun to be had here. It's just that I think I'm taking it too seriously in my mind because it's basically a cartoon. I have to treat it as such. Do you know what I mean? Because like when you're watching a cartoon, you don't take anything seriously. There's no like, well, what about? You don't ask any of the questions about logic. But like the fact that he was pretending the entire time makes way more sense of what was going on during the movie. Because I'm watching and I'm like, how does this guy know how to fight? How does this guy know how to do this? How does this guy know how to do that? Like, how is he so well equipped? And all of that makes so much sense now. I'm like, okay, so but why was he pretending to be this guy when no one was around except for Priyanka? I'm a little bit confused as to what he was trying to do.
From my understanding is that I think he, from the Don's perspective, is that he took him being caught by the police and their plan as an opportunity to erase himself off the map completely. I mean, the best way to be the best kind of supervillain per se, or the Don of all evil things, the greatest trick the devil pulled is convincing the world he didn't exist, right? It's like that. So in order for it to play out completely, he had to go along with the plan to pretend that he's a plant. So right now, Don doesn't exist. Only the plant does, and now it's even been verified by the police as well.
Yeah, but Priyanka Chopra's character, Roma, knows that Dawn's still alive.
Yeah, I mean, it's the cliffhanger. It's the little bit of the cliffhanger.
So if she tells the cops, the gig is up.
It doesn't matter. Even if they do discover it, he's free. He still gets away. Best case, the world doesn't know he exists. Worst case, he's still free, but the police are still looking for him. He still wins. But he had to play it out in order for this full-on, I'm pulling the wool over your eyes, Kaiser Sose moment. He had to play it all the way out. Because the end game is to convince the police that he's the plant. That's the end game for him. It doesn't matter about the disc. The disc was fugazi. It's for us and our entertainment. That's why he's like, there's nothing on the disc. It's not even about that. It's like, I need to convince the police that I don't exist. To me. And obviously for those in the audience, please in the comments let us know if I'm a little too far off. That's to me because there's really no other play. And that and the fact that he got a chance to get rid of all of his competition too, because whoever the fake police officer got rid of all of the competition in Malaysia, and he did it without him having to do it. It was in the shootouts with the alleged fake Don or whatever it is. So he eliminated the competition. Everybody thinks he's dead. I mean, that's the only thing I could think of.
It's a silly movie.
It's a convoluted plot. It is what that gets. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. It is that. It definitely went a big, huge 3-hour roundabout way in order to get back to it to where we are. But I guess, like you said, it's like, did you have fun?
Yes. It's just that there's a lot of pieces that don't really. Do you remember that scene in The Dark Knight when Batman jumps out the roof of his own building to save Maggie Gyllenhaal?
Yeah.
And then the movie just moves on. We don't give a damn about the fact that the Joker's up there with the old guy and all the people and whatnot and his crew. And the movie just keeps going. It felt like that almost every other scene in this movie. You know what I mean? I'm just like, so we're just gonna, and we just keep moving. In a way, I'm glad that it turned out Dawn was alive the entire time and it was him pretending to be Vijay the entire time. I thought that actually made way more sense of a lot of what was going on in this movie, because I'm like, because initially I was like, so wait a second. We spent 40 minutes with a dude that we just kill off and we don't meet our main character until 40 minutes into the movie. That's just not good writing. And then you find out that it's him the entire time, and the guy you thought you were following died a long time ago, and you really only spent like 15 minutes with the guy. I was like, okay, it's a little bit Hideo Kojima, but it works. The
only person that really lost is the little kid, right? He lost his uncle. So no one else is mourning.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like, because it also makes sense of that scene, because when he walks into the school, he didn't really recognize the kid, and I was like, why wouldn't he know the kid's face? Like, not that much time has passed.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. That's very true.
Yeah,
that's true.
And so when you connect the dots at the end, you're like, oh, that's why he didn't recognize him. What was this whole thing about? Like, why did he need to show Priyanka that kid? Like, how did that help? Was it just to get in her good graces? Like, I'm a little bit confused as to why he needed to introduce the kid to her and where that went. Like, I'm trying to backtrack through the movie now and try to make sense of
I don't understand how he even knew about the kid.
No, they showed us. They showed us near the end of the movie. They showed us because he was listening through the vent. Because when they were talking, he could hear all the conversation.
They brought it up about that he had a nephew. Well, adopted son.
Because Vijay was asking Boman Irani about, are you going to get him educated, et cetera, et cetera. And it was either happening right in front of Dawn or in the next room, and Dawn could overhear the conversation.
Okay.
That's how.
Okay, that makes sense. I buy it. Yeah.
I am willing to bet that this was at least in part inspired by Face Off, because just the vibe of it and the serious elements, the action, and the whole thing with the surgery and killing off the doctors. I'm like, there's so much overlap with Face Off. There has to be at least a mild inspiration from that, which I like, because Face Off is one of my favorite action movies. It's also a silly action movie.
Yes, it is. But it's over the top. It's completely over the top.
Way over the top.
But it's one of John Woo's best too, though.
Exactly.
Like you said, it's one of John Woo's best.
Exactly. That movie is also like a cartoon, but at least with Face Off, like, I could follow what was happening and I didn't feel confused. Whereas here I got confused a lot. I'm like, okay, so wait, why? Let me just take my hands off the steering wheel here and the car will drive itself. I'm getting a little bit confused and it's frustrating me because I'm trying to understand and I'm like, you're not supposed to understand. It's just happening.
No, this is a popcorn movie. It's a popcorn movie.
The only thing I can make this akin to, there's a lot of you guys watching right now who love this movie, so I apologize. But the only thing that can make this akin to in terms of an experience was when you and I were in San Diego at the hotel after Comic-Con. You meet a bunch of dudes, and we were all smoking weed, and you showed me Charlie the Unicorn, and I'm trying to understand what's happening. And I'm
Google Charlie the Unicorn. It's just senseless. But go ahead.
And it's like that already has like this string of like when you watch it, it doesn't like connect, and so when you're high, it's even worse, and you're like, hold on, I can't follow anything. That's the only thing I can make akin to this experience is because I'm like, I don't understand and I'm trying to when I'm not supposed to. That's what I'm trying to say ultimately. I'm trying to do something the movie doesn't want me to do, which is make sense of how things are connected. Except for what they show you, which is Boman Irani's still alive. He has that revealing moment where he goes, I'm Vardon, or whatever the guy's. He reveals that. It's like, okay, so that's what you're supposed to know. He's pretending. Somehow he got into the high ranks of the police force, but he's also this bad guy. And
you just got to run with it.
I think that I just got a little bit confused as to like how he was connected to Dawn and the other bad guy above Dawn and like what that relationship was. I was just a little thrown by that stuff. Obviously, Dawn did not recognize De Silva when he saw him. Right before De Silva knocked him out, right? He didn't recognize him. And so I'm just a little bit thrown by like all that stuff, but you're not supposed to care.
Right. The De Silva stuff kind of threw me a little bit as well, especially with him, with his evil personality. Yeah. And I just assumed he's just one of the more powerful drug dealers that's in the room. That's along with Don, and he's along with Singh. I forgot his Singhania, I think that's his name.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so I just assumed that he's just in the room with Singhania and everybody else. And somehow he was able to infiltrate the police and able to work his way up the ranks. I think Don probably did recognize him possibly. And also that picture looked like it was taken a really long time ago and it didn't look exactly like him per se. Maybe time has passed, or maybe he was so involved in like, I'm given this opportunity to absolutely erase my old identity and start over fresh. Then I'm not gonna blow it by signaling that I know DCP De Silva. I'm not gonna blow it by letting him know that I know who he is. Like, this is my out. This is an easy out. It was like pretty much gifted to him. That's the only way that I can kind of explain it. I didn't really understand completely why De Silva wanted the information. I'm like, what was he going to do with it? I mean, I know that's where a lot of the bank accounts that the Don had. So I'm just assuming he was just gonna use that information to take over the Don's work, I guess. I think that's the only thing I can think of.
There was also Mission Impossible elements in this, and that disc is definitely a Mission Impossible element. That was taken straight from Tom Cruise's first Mission Impossible movie. the knock list.
The what you call it? The Nautilus. Okay.
The knock list is what they called it, I think, in the
Okay.
movie, which had the names of all of MI6's agents and stuff like that, or something crazy like that. I forgot what was on the knock list, but it was really, really important, and that's essentially what was going on here. And it was just MacGuffin to get the movie going.
Well, it was a MacGuffin for us. Yeah. Yeah, it served no principal point for us, the viewers.
Right. But
it's all right, though. Go ahead.
what was the whole deal with Jasjit Ahuja and his kid? How did that help this movie? Because
I think he's just the wild card.
Well,
He's just the wild card.
I thought the movie had enough going on. It had a lot going on, and then you threw in this other dude who's got a vendetta against DCP De Silva, and I'm like, wait, what? We are taking a detour here for this character and his son, and I'm like, all right, okay, like, how does it all really need to be in this movie? Because there's already a lot of pieces here. You ordered a hamburger, some french fries, potato salad, and a turkey sandwich. I'm like, you got enough food? I think you got a lot of food. You know, you know what I mean? It just felt like a lot. Maybe it all fits together. Like if I look at the Wikipedia, maybe I'll see how it all just like fits.
And to everybody watching too, like you got to keep in mind. And definitely I'm speaking for myself on this. I have to have time to like super just digest. When it gets this crazy, I have to really sit and just digest. And we're just kind of like, we just finished it and we're just shooting off the hip based on the things that we said. So not all of it has been coming together solidly. So I am scratching my head regarding that. Like, to me, maybe it was a casting thing. Maybe the actor that played the father with the leg that was broke, but not really. Maybe he has like some star power and they were like, okay, we'll just add him to the billing because he puts butts in the seats. I don't understand like why they went with the gimmick of the gimp leg. I didn't get that. I thought there was gonna be a payoff for that for something. I'm like, why?
It was you know what? That was one of the interesting things in the movie actually, was that, you know, he had this injury from Beaumont Irani and it just like it's been with him for most of his. Now he's got a permanent limp from that injury.
Right.
I thought that was actually interesting, and it adds a new element to the fight scenes. But it felt like the fight scenes didn't really take that into consideration. It's like,
No.
It was kind of there. I mean, they used the stick and whatnot, and then the stick got changed into a shiv. And like, he couldn't move quite as well, but it felt like they could have made better use of it in the fight scenes, is all I mean to say. I've got the plot in front of me from Wikipedia. The illegal drug trade in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia is booming. A team headed by Deputy Commissioner of Police De Silva targets the operations of cartel leader Singhania to capture his manager Don. Singhania is one of the two lieutenants of a deceased kingpin known as Boris. The other is Vardon.
So Vardon was a kingpin. Yeah.
Well, he's a lieutenant.
That's what we're saying.
He's a lieutenant. Singhania is one of two lieutenants of a deceased kingpin known as Boris. The other is Vardon. There's already a lot of data in that first paragraph. Ramesh's fiancée, Kamini, decides to help the police. She uses herself as bait in an attempt to trap him, but Dawn, knowing of her plan, kills her.
Man, I forgot all about that scene. Golly, that slipped my mind. Go ahead.
That was like last year. I felt like,
Right. I forgot about that.
It felt like another movie ago. Dawn is injured and falls into a coma while trying to flee from the police. De Silva finds a lookalike named Vijay and asks him to join his mission. Now, how the fuck did he find this guy? Who cares, right? Like, it's the movie. Somehow, he found a guy who looks like him, sounds like him, has the same height. Okay.
Hold on, I had a quick question. Maybe you'll explain it in a hot second. Okay, so with Roma, so apparently she had fake bullets to shoot at the police. So she had an association with who to set that up?
She didn't just have fake bullets. She had a special effects team on standby to screw up the windshield. They had squibs inside the cop's outfit. Like, she had this was like some J.J. Abrams level shit that she had going on with a stack of money. So like, somehow that all worked out. Vijay agrees when De Silva promises to admit Deepu, a boy Vijay takes care of, to school. It's weird to me that De Silva even, came through on that promise. Like, why would he do that? When Don suddenly dies after the operation, the masquerade begins. Vijay, posing as Don, joins the gang. De Silva asks Vijay to find a computer disk containing details about the drug cartel. When Vijay finds it, Roma attempts to kill him, but De Silva tells her of Don's real identity, and she agrees to help. Vijay hands over the disc to De Silva. De Silva murders Singhania, and the police arrest Vijay. Are you following this so far? Because I'm backtracking in my mind. I'm remembering all this because they're basically wrapping up like 30 minutes of movie in a sentence. Okay.
Right.
Having discovered his true identity, Don's associates turn against him. Vijay escapes and meets with Roma to recover the disc and prove his innocence. Jasjit finds the disc in De Silva's apartment. He receives a call and is told that he will have to bring the disc to the... And he was just hanging out in that apartment the entire time.
Hold on, wait a second though. Wait a second too. Like, all right, so wait a minute. Somebody, because the father, he had the guy from the car dealership look into the file, and there was actually stuff there though.
Yes.
So it wasn't fake.
No,
Like he said.
that disc wasn't fake. But the disc handed off was fake. That's easy. Jasjit reunites with Deepu, teams up with Vijay and Roma. The trio comes up with a plan and informs Interpol. That whole scene was completely nonsensical. You two stay in that room over there where there's an escape hole, and I'm gonna leave, and the bad guys aren't even gonna check on you and keep an eye on you while we wait out this clock for 7 p.m. to roll around. And then somehow, man with a gimp leg and his son, no less, hop on and cross the bridge in Kuala Lumpur and get away. How did they escape the bad guys who are all able-bodied with guns and can see
And can
them?
see where you're going. And can see where you're going.
This is what I'm talking about. It's like the movie just kept going, and you just like have to forget whatever came
Yeah, you just
before
gotta-
it. It's Charlie and it's Charlie and the Unicorn, and so. There are so many moving parts in this movie, dude. Like, I just watched it, and I just read the Wikipedia, and I'm like, I'm still a tad, like, I understand the broad strokes now, but it still begs the question of why a lot of things were important in the movie. Like, the thing with the kid, like, barely has any, it's just another detour. I'm like, all right, it's fine, whatever.
I'm still trying to figure out who hired Roma and set that up. I don't know why that bothers me so much, but I'm like, I thought maybe as the movie progressed, maybe she was working with the police as like a double agent, because how does that happen? It was just left. It was like, oh yeah, we just faked it to convince some. I don't.
They played the same card twice, by the way, because Kareena Kapoor is trying to get back at Dawn for killing her fiance. So she tries to do that, she gets killed. So now Priyanka's mad, and she's gonna get back at Dawn for killing Kareena Kapoor. I'm like, y'all just played that same card. Y'all literally just did that. It's like, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I feel you. Yeah. That's what happened. They were like, well, let's try it again. It's just like, I can do this trick one more time. But the thing about when you have Priyanka, like, all of her sins are forgiven when it comes to, like, making sense.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons. So, but yeah, the father-son thing, that is just really, I don't get that. The only thing I can think of is just billing. The dude has billing and he puts butts in the seats. Maybe he's more of a, I've never seen the actor before, so I don't know how to speak on that.
His name is Arjun Rampal. He's definitely like up there at the top billing. He's number 3. He was in Raw 1. He was in Om Shanti Om and Rock On. He was in a lot of stuff. Oh My Ghost. But these are new movies. Let me see.
Yeah, because if the film did not do what you suggest, and that it's not have the company pay for them to come visit, then it's probably a very expensive film. And you're probably going to need, as a production company, you're going to we need some insurances. We need X amount of actors that we know are going to put butts in the seats. From a production standpoint, from a producer standpoint, because like you said, that storyline, it doesn't really move anything a whole lot more.
Well,
at least I haven't connected the dots to how that moves the story along.
Leading up to Dawn, he was in a lot of stuff. Leading up to Dawn, from like 2001 to 2005, he had a lot of work going, and then Dawn. So it makes, or even up to 2006, he had a lot of work going before Dawn. So that makes sense. I see what you're saying. But to me, like,
they do that in American films a lot.
Yeah,
they'll just put big names in there, and they might necessarily have big parts, but they know it'll put butts in seats.
My favorite scene in the entire film was when Shah Rukh Khan and Priyanka were trying to get away. Oh my God, now it makes more sense. The beetle leaf thing, because there was a whole bit about how he doesn't eat beetle leaves.
And he doesn't. The only way he could eat it is when he was drunk, because he was really that person. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, exactly. Because like Vijay's character is into eating beetle leaves all the time, and so that was a clue that it wasn't Vijay. Because he had the opportunity to eat the beetle leaf. He's like, no, I'm good only when I'm drunk. It's like, no, but Vijay loves that stuff. That was my favorite scene in the whole movie, by the way. Was that dance sequence, which tonally doesn't really go with the rest of the movie. That dance sequence was my favorite scene in the entire film. It's just like the way it was shot, the character, you know, it was just fun and goofy, and like it just like that was the happiest I felt watching the entire movie, just because of the way it was put together. I thought it was nice, and the dancing and all that stuff, and the music was nice. None of the other songs stood out to me as songs I'd want to listen to again, except for that one. That was the only one where I'm like, oh, that was fun. I'd listen to that again. That's a fun song. The action was put together like, I don't even know how to describe it very well, other than it was just kind of staccato. It just like, things happened, and then the fight was over, and I was like, I see half of the fight, but then the other half is so obscured, I'm just getting frustrated because there was no like, you know, usually even with something like Bourne Identity, which is infuriating, you can still follow what's happening. I couldn't follow what was happening here. It was just stuff, you know, and that's why I mentioned the Batman Begins, because it was the same experience where I'm like, it's just stuff happening, and then the fights, like someone's on the floor now. I'm like, you know. You know what I mean? And then there were instances, especially in that opening fight, where it didn't quite connect. There was like, I remember one wide shot where like it completely like missed, and they're reacting and whatever. I'm like, I guess you got what you got. Like, you didn't get the coverage you needed to make that work, so now you just got to use this shot where that was clearly a miss. And add to the fact that this was shot on film, and that made things, you know, more difficult technically than you know how things are today, where you can like look at what happened and verify that connected and stacked. Versus back then, like maybe you didn't know if it's stacked or not. For those of you that don't know what stacking is, it's like if someone punches by your face, this like how my fist is right now with my face, that's stacking. Versus this, where it's a clear miss, when you have it overlap a little bit, that's considered stacking.
You brought up something that's very interesting too, I didn't even think about until you said it, and that's the fact that it's shot on film. And I know we said earlier, we were talking about the colorization. What you said regarding it being on film is interesting because it makes a lot of the colorization choices a little bit more firm. And it did, now in hindsight, it does feel like film. Like we talked earlier about regarding like the sepia tint that's put on like South American content, if you're in South America. We were joking earlier about it being blue when it's in England, and then there was like a distinct green when we were in Malaysia all of the time. I do appreciate the effort to stylize film, which is exceedingly more difficult to stylize film than it is to stylize like modern day shooting photography that's being done. And also the fact that some of the homages that went along with it. Like, there is the scene in the club that had a couple of hat tips to Scarface, like that scene, because there's the crush with the yayo scene, and when the guys come in and start shooting
the
up the club. The bathtub scene was a really cool homage. There was another one that I was really that I couldn't put my finger on it exactly, but it was in the carport when they were fighting in the basement. I've seen that before, and I was like, is this kind of like a little bit of a hat to heat? And those type of shots to be done on old school cameras, especially that last one, the Heat one, that's pretty difficult. And it also kind of adds to the point of what you were saying regarding some of the fight scenes where, you know, you gotta get what you gotta get. You can't have 1,000 takes to get stuff to be perfect, because it's gonna be like dumb expensive, right? Like doing fight scenes and making them look crisp and clean back then was very challenging. It's a lot harder back then than it was now because you're dealing with film. So I just want to say, you know, I see that. You know, I can kind of understand why it does seem a little choppy, because the opening sequence with the opening fight sequence was, I couldn't tell really what was going on. And I don't have nearly as good of an eye as you do. And I was like, this is kind of tough. Yeah. But like you were saying, maybe they only had X amount of money to get that done, and you got to work with what you got. Yeah. And you piece it together, and then that's what you get.
Yeah, the fight scenes were a bit messy, for sure. The thing about it is, well before this movie ever came out, in Hong Kong, they were shooting fight scenes and making it work, and they were shooting on film. And so,
very true.
You know, it's a matter of what your goals are in the fight and how you plan to accomplish that. And I'm imagining maybe that Shah Rukh Khan didn't have martial arts training, and neither did anybody else on set, and they're just trying their best to make it work in a way that feels impactful, and that is the paramount concern, is does it feel impactful? I'm guessing. And so in order to accomplish that and just make it work somehow, you're just cutting together whatever you can. And I think when you're in the editing room looking at this, I think it makes more sense to you than when you're looking at the final product as an objective viewer. You as the editor, when you're looking at the dailies, can see things differently than the objective viewer, which is why you focus test this stuff, generally speaking. And like, yeah, I couldn't follow it, but I think maybe for your average audience, it's fine. Like, it's just happening. So there were some moments during the action that was interesting, and I think that there are some cool elements to the film. I don't want it to make it sound like it's all bad. Like, there was definitely moments that were fun. It's just that the plot just took so much of my attention, and I didn't know how to get over that. Because I'm trying to follow the story, and I'm like, there's just not a story here. So like, it's a series of things that happen, and they sort of connect. And I'm like, okay, yeah, there you go. That happened. you know?
Yeah. I feel that way a lot about one of my favorite all-time franchises, and if you've been paying attention, you already know this. One of my favorite all-time franchises is the Fast and the Furious.
Yeah.
I love it because it knows what it is. It's total fun. I can turn my brain off and just enjoy what's being shown in front of me. And I got to a point in this film where I was like, oh, okay, Fast and Furious, and my brain just adjusted. It's like, okay, there's just some things you're just gonna just let slide, and let's just keep it moving. The pace was good, regardless of the plot points.
Yes.
Regardless of the plot points, the pace was good.
Yes.
So there wasn't a whole lot of me being like distracted by other things. So I think, well done. That's one thing I can say about Fast and Furious movies. The pacing in Fast and Furious movies are always amazing. You're never dull. And this was on that same level.
That's a very, very good point, because before I knew it, we were at the intermission point. I'm like, oh, this movie's moving quick. Like, it's
and then
going...
it really sped up in the second half, too.
Yeah. Like, it was moving along. I was like, oh, okay, well, cool. Like it's definitely got the pacing down pat in terms of like how it's being edited together, and there's a lot of story happening. I think that because there's so many moving parts and because there's so much going on, you're trying to keep up with it, and it's moving so quick. Like before you know it, the movie's over.
Like, what just happened?
Exactly.
It was like that moment in Beavis and Butthead where Beavis, the guy, the tall kid, he gets into a fight and he's just getting mollywopped. It's happening so fast, and when it's over, he's laid down, and he looks at Butthead and he was like, did I just get laid? It's kind of feels like that. You're just getting, so much is coming at you, and you're like, oh my God, am I satisfied? What just happened?
Anyways, hopefully you guys had fun with our watch along and the discussion. So thanks so much for hanging out. If you're watching this on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button, bell icon, all notifications, and vote this up to let YouTube know you're enjoying what you're watching. If you're watching this on Patreon, thanks so much for supporting us here. My apologies to any of you who were really hoping that we were going to love this and didn't meet the expectations you had for our viewing experience. But thank you for supporting us here nonetheless, and I hope you appreciate that we're coming at you honestly as we can. So that's it for now. I'm Jaby KOAY. This is...
Hey, it's your boy SYNTELL.
Peace out.